I look after patients directly in Sheffield and also Bradford. So I've got that West Yorkshire link as well. And then as a haemoglobinopathy coordinating centre, we're the sickle cell centre that looks after, sort of provides oversight and guidance across Yorkshire and the northeast of England. So really, really delighted to be part of the project today. So it's a genetic condition. It's caused by just a single mutation in one of the genes for making hemoglobin. And that change means that instead of making really nice, healthy adult hemoglobin, people make sickle hemoglobin. So it's a problem with the red blood cells. And you can see, was the pointer working? So some of these red blood cells, if you ignore the dot in the middle, you know, they look quite healthy, they're nice and round, and our red cells should be round and quite flexible. But the problem with sickle hemoglobin is it makes the red cells into these really rigid, kind of spiky sickle shapes. And when that happens, they can block a blood vessel and stop the blood getting through to a healthy bit of the body. So that's one of the main problems in sickle cell. The other problem is those red blood cells just don't live for very long, so they die off, they get broken down in the circulation, so people don't have enough red blood cells and they're quite anemic with this condition. And because, you know, pretty much all of our body has a blood supply, unfortunately, pretty much all of the body is affected by sickle cell, and it causes a combination of acute, kind of quick onset, serious problems. The most common of which is called a sickle crisis, and that can be very, very painful. But it also causes long-term damage to the internal organs. So just going through these kind of one by one, and this isn't even an exhaustive list. The painful crisis can be anywhere in the body, and that can be absolutely excruciating. Sickle cell can cause bleeding in the eye and blindness, and that can come on very suddenly. And if someone hasn't had the routine screening to pick up the early changes, they can go from having normal vision to just going blind in an eye immediately. It can cause heart failure and kind of long-term lung damage. Sorry, I can't see where the pointer is. There we go. It causes increased risk of blood clots in the leg or the lung. Hyposplenism means that the spleen isn't working properly. And the spleen is really important in helping us fight infection, you know, all infections, bacterial infection, malaria being two really prevalent ones. And because the spleen stops working properly, people are at high risk of having very serious infections. And malaria itself can be much more serious for people with sickle cell disorders. It can affect the liver and kidneys. It can cause anemia, and people can be so anemic that they need urgent blood transfusion. And then going down the left side here, sickle cell can cause stroke, even in young children, very sadly. So quite a high proportion of children are at risk of having a stroke before they get to 18. And the treatment to stop that happening, if we know that they're at very high risk, is regular blood transfusion.